Hello, everybody. Hey, Tom Davis here again, Director of Recruiting from Student Athlete World. And it is my privilege and honor to have a native Pittsburgh guy, Coach Dave Wannstedt, who really needs no introduction and all that. But I'm just honored to have him on the show today. We're going to talk a little bit about football and get into some stuff. And Coach, I'm turning it over to you right now. Give us your bio and background, sir.
Well, you mentioned I'm a Pittsburgh guy, born and raised there, played at Baldwin High School. And, we got an opportunity to play in the Big 33 game, going way back to my high school days, since that's what we're talking about. And then went to Pitt, chose to go and play at Pitt. And I was Coach Major. And then going into my junior year, Coach Majors, Carl DePasco was the head coach. And Coach DePasco got let go. And Johnny Majors came in and took over. And I was fortunate. I was Coach Majors, one of his first captains that first year when he was the head coach at Pitt. And we went to the Fiesta Bowl. Tony Dorsett, we were teammates. He was a freshman that year. So that's a little bit about my playing background. And then I got into coaching, and I was up at the Packers for a year. And then when I came back to Pitt, Coach Majors offered me a graduate assistant job. And I took it. I had just got married. And then we win the national championship. He goes to Tennessee. Jackie Sherrill takes over. And then Jimmy Johnson joins the staff as an assistant, and Coach Sherrill offered me a full-time job. So Jimmy and I were assistants for 2 years, and obviously we're winning a lot of games at Pitt. That was the Hugh Green, Ricky Jackson era. And then I went to Oklahoma State with Jimmy. Then I went to USC and Miami, and then Dallas and the Bears and the Dolphins. I mean, when I give my resume, it's a little bit scary because most people say this guy couldn't hold a job. I've been to so many places. But I'll tell you what, 90% of them were better moves. And they always turn out to be that way in the end. At first, you're uncertain of a few jobs. But, they were all great experiences for me. And then 8 years ago, I got into the TV stuff, never thinking I would do this. And now I do shows all week in Chicago, radio, TV. And then I fly to LA every weekend, and I work. My main job is with Fox, and I do college stuff. I take that back. Fox owns the Big Ten network. So yes. I walk everywhere in Chicago. So I get on and I do 1 or 2 shows a week on the Big Ten network, BTN. So I'm getting a nice mix of everything. And I'm very fortunate, very blessed to be able to do it, really, to be honest with you. Now I'm done. So I'm down here in Florida now. This is my house here. This is kind of where we hang out down here. And, that's it.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, I have to ask you, what's easier, the TV or the coaching?
Oh, well, when you're a TV, you're an idiot. You got no sense at all. You're a moron. And now I'm an expert. I get behind a microphone and everything you say now is correct. So this is fun. And I'll tell you what, it's not coaching. I mean, I love to coach. I could still coach, but I'll tell you what, I'm talking to players and coaches every week, depending on the big games and shows that we have. So I get my football fix that way. And I've got 6 grandkids, and 5 of them are boys. And 1 is going to be my size. And this kid is going to be probably 6'5", 6'6". And last year, in fact, I'll probably be calling you, Tom, for recruiting advice here in a couple of years. Last year was the first year we let him play tackle football. And my whole goal was, at that age, I just wanted to see, I told my daughter, I want to see if he likes the game. Does he like the contact? Does he like getting his nose dirty? And he loved it. So he's going to be a big kid. And, if all things work out, he'll go to Loyola High School there in Chicago. John Holosack's the head coach.
Yeah, I know them.
Yep, and they have a great program. They put kids into every level of college every year out there. So we'll see what happens. So I'm going to do a little coaching, but it probably won't be at the collegiate or NFL level.
There you go. So, well, how are you going to be watching the young ones playing, Coach? I mean, are you going to have to stand by yourself, or are you going to mix in with everybody?
You know what? I don't go to games. I mean, I will go to his games. But even right now, like collegiate games, I mean, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing to TV, and I don't know. I kind of look at it more when I'm watching a game now, even on TV. I'm looking at it more from a strategy and a decision-making process rather than getting caught up in the emotion of the game. I think 40 years of doing it straight. I never took a break. 40 years straight. That'll take your that'll play havoc on your emotions.
Well, it was crazy because I mean, I'm a little younger than you, and I actually have been coaching and assistant AD at high schools. I played professionally for 4 years in a Red Sox system, and then got into, you know, the coaching and everything. I was coached college stuff, but got married and did high school, got into the education thing, doing football, doing baseball, everything. And finally had gotten out. My first grandson was born, and I'm like, okay, I'll get to watch this. And then Rawlings, you know who Rawlings is. They talked to me, and then now I'm doing one of their 18 U Elite Showcase baseball teams and everything. So, I mean, you know what? And I love it. I'm like you too. I mean, you know what? I love the coaching stuff and everything. And that's what I want to get into a little bit with you here. Your young years, I mean, when you first got in there at Pitt, I mean, you were great teams. I mean, I was in my younger teens and watching those teams and all that. Talk about that coaching staff that you had at Pitt. You had some outstanding coaches that brought all of these tremendous players in, Coach.
Yeah, they did. I tell you what, it was a challenge. In fact, I got my Pitt blue on here. You see that there?
Nice. You're gonna make my West Virginia fans really cringe with that one.
No, but you know, the thing that was so different back then, Coach Major's first year, he worked something out with the chancellor. He brought in like 90-some freshmen. And so it was probably as tough an off season. We had 35 or 40 that came in with my class. And by the time we went to training camp at Johnstown that summer, the first camp with Coach Majors, I think we were down to 16 seniors left.
Wow.
And we had all these freshmen, and obviously he was building for the future, you know. And but the ones that stayed, you know, that old expression, those that stay will play. But it was good. I mean, I bought in. It was all about buying in, and Coach Majors had a different style, you know, every coach does. And the assistant coaches were very young. I think Coach Majors was probably in his late 30s, maybe 40. And Jackie Sherrill and Joe Evazano, who was my coach, I mean, these guys were all in their late 20s. And so, you know, they were tough on us, but there was a lot of life lessons that I learned and took from those days. And then we started winning and had a little bit of success and went to a bowl game. So we got a taste of that. But it was a great experience. Not at the time, you know, at 5 o'clock in the morning up there. You know, I probably can't even talk about some of the things that we did up there then. I mean, right now it would be not illegal, but it would be, the NCAA would definitely not get into some of our early morning workouts. Let me just say that.
Very old school, huh?
Oh, God, tough stuff. I mean, in the wrestling rooms, crazy things that we did and they had us doing it. Oh, yeah. So anyway, it was a great staff, a young staff. And really, Joe Evazano, you know, was my coach, and Joe has passed away, but Joe had a major influence. I think that and I do work for the NFL now, I put on seminars for young coaches that are assistants like in the NFL, just getting started. And the league sends me and a few other guys, Bill Polian and a few other guys go in, and and I talk to them about the challenges that they're going to have, because a lot of them are ex-players, and it's not the money like playing. It's not, it's not the pat on the back like when you're a player. I mean, it's a different deal being a coach. And the first question I asked them, I have every guy stand up and say, why do you want to be a coach? And almost to a man, it's because in their playing journey, it doesn't matter what the sport is, there was a coach, whether it was in junior high, middle school, in high school, in college, but there was a coach somewhere along that road that made a difference in their lives. And that's what they want to do. And that's why I got into it. So the staff was great. It was tough at Pitt. We set a good foundation. And I was just on a Zoom with about 12 guys the other day that were all guys that we came in together with. The Claire Wilsons of the world, and Ray Olson and Dave Blandinos. I mean, we still stay in touch with all those guys.
That's awesome. One guy that I know that you hold dear, Jimmy Johnson. He came and was on the staff, and you've coached a lot with him. Tell us what Coach Johnson means to you a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, Coach Johnson's kind of been like a big brother to me, really. I mean, I could have stayed at Pitt. Jackie wanted me to stay, and we were winning. In fact, Dan Marino was going to come in. He was coming in as a freshman, and we had Randy McMillan and Hugh Green and Jimbo Covert. I mean, it was the who's who of Pitt football. And Jimmy and I went out for a few beers, and he said to me, he says, Dave, I've been 2 years now we've worked together, and he says, I think you got a lot of upside, but the only way you're going to really find out if you want to do this is you need to jump in with both feet. And I said, so what are you saying? He said, well, you need to come with me to Oklahoma State. and so I'd never been to Oklahoma, so and Jimmy and I just clicked as people too. So I went with him, and he said, I'm not going to name a defensive coordinator. You'll let you coach, defensive line I was coaching. And he says, we'll see how it works out. And we went down there to Oklahoma State, and they were coming off probation. And I think we had 30 scholarship players, 30. Oklahoma beat us so bad the first year that Barry Switzer left the game with 5 minutes to go and went in and started calling recruits. They were beating us that bad. He didn't even stay for the end of the game. He had 2 cigarettes on the sideline and went in and called recruits. So we had a long journey, but we got him going. We went to a bowl game, and then I went to USC. And don't you know, the next year, so I'm out in California. We go to the Rose Bowl. We beat Ohio State. It's a great experience. And the next year, Jimmy gets the University of Miami job. And so Jimmy calls me up and says, hey, I want you to come down here and run the defense with me at Miami. So then I go down there with him, and, we won a national championship, should have won 2, and then had a chance to win 2. And then don't you know that Coach Shula calls me up. Many people don't know this. And he offers me the linebacker job with the Dolphins. I wouldn't even have to move, just drive up the street about 10 minutes farther from the Hurricanes. So I take the job, and now I'm in the NFL, and it was literally, I don't think I got a paycheck. It might have been 4 or 5 weeks later, Jimmy gets the Dallas Cowboy job. So here we go again. So now I get down there as a defensive coordinator, and I leave Coach Shula and the Dolphins, and kind of the rest is history,
I hear you. I want to get into a little bit. I mean, you've coached big time in college football, and you're big time professional football. Give me the differences in coaching big time collegiate football and in the NFL, sir.
Well, it's gotten to the point in the NFL where, first of all, the players we know are older. They got money, they got families, and so forth. So you're dealing with a little different type of guy there. But the agents now are so involved and got their hand on these NFL players. In other words, you might be if you're having an issue with a college kid, you call them in and you say, hey, you got, whether it's, you got to go to class, you got to get your grades up. We got to give better effort on the football field. We got to get in the weight room more, whatever it might be. In the NFL, you almost call the agent. The agent's calling you saying, so it's a different relationship with the players. And the only reason I took the Pitt job, I mean, I turned them down couple, I mean, I'm saying this very humbly. I mean, 2 or 3 times I was offered that job, turned them down. And I turned them down a month before. I was trying to get Matt Cavanaugh the job. And they came back again. And the only reason I took it wasn't the money. I was making more money in the NFL. The only reason I took the job was that I knew that those 18-year-old kids that I could really, you know, and I take a lot of pride in knowing the city of Pittsburgh and the university and the history of the greatness. I was there as a player and when we won a national championship. So I just felt like I could really make a difference in these young kids' lives at Pitt.
Sure. And
that's why I took the job. And I really, I mean, to this day, on Father's Day, I get texts from Pitt players. I mean, I'm communicating with Jason Pinkston now, Nate Bynum. I mean, the guy that represents me, you know, and he was my PR director at the Bears. He's taking care of a lot of the Pitt coaches right now. The Andrew Janoko, and you know. So my point is that I'm still connected with these guys. LaShawn McCoy and I did the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and when New England came back and beat Atlanta, Fox had the Super Bowl in Houston when they beat the Falcons. And afterwards, I brought Dion Lewis up, and he was one of our guests to interview him on the set. I saw Jabal Sheard there. Aaron Donald's fiance called me. They were going to do an awards thing this year for him after he got X amount of sacks or something, broke a record. And she wanted a quote and a little FaceTime video thing that they could put up on the screen. So, you know, I still stay connected with these kids, and I follow them and support them any way I can. Jason Pinkston, I'll give you a story. You know, before his mother died, oh my God, I think it was his freshman year at Pitt. And he promised his mother, and his mother asked me when I was recruiting him, make sure Jason gets his degree. And I said, I will. So Jason gets drafted. He's playing up at the Cleveland Browns. And about 2 years later, the phone rings, and he says, Coach, it's Jason. I said, hey, what's up, Jason? He said, I just want you to know I'm sitting here looking at my degree from Pitt. And I fulfilled that promise that I made in front of you to my mom. So stories like that, you know, don't get talked about much. But and then the city too. And I don't mind throwing this out there. I mean, when I was there, we started a chapter for St. Jude Children's Hospital. My wife was on the board. We had a big charity thing when I was coaching the Dolphins, and Mike Tomlin got involved. Dan Baalsma, he was the hockey coach, Penguins at the time. He got in. Baalsma, I'm sorry. You know, we got together and we were having a big charity event every year out there at Oakmont Country Club, raising a lot of money. And I had an aunt and uncle that were blind, and we started something for the blind, and we had the function right there at the facility at Pitt on the south side. And so, you know, I felt like I was, you know, it was home. It's home for me. It was my town, my city. I felt like we were making a difference in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. I mean, I followed you, and I know when you came back to Pitt. One of the things, man, I always thought you were an excellent recruiter, and you know, being that Pittsburgh guy, I really thought that you did an excellent job with, you know, the Western Pennsylvania players in the WPIL. I mean, you know how important they are to. There are 3 programs that were right around there, and you go back: West Virginia, Pitt, Penn State, and you know, now everybody is in to pick them up, and you know, I just want to get into some things from the 70s, from when you and then I graduated 82, little younger and everything, Coach, but from then until now. Tell me how's football evolved, player-wise, strategy-wise, and recruiting-wise. I mean, recruiting-wise, when you were getting recruited and I mean, the kids are, when I talk to my kids and clients, I'm like, everything that I did was either at the school, it was through letter or telephone. You know, there's no Twitter, there's no everything. So just talk a little bit on, in your experience, Coach, about going from the 70s, how players have evolved, how the game's changed, and everything like that.
Well, you know, the money that these programs are spending now, it's tenfold from what it was. And, and they got number of coaches and they've got the facilities. That's a battle where, and they've got social, you're talking about all the Twitter and social media things. I mean, every staff has one or two people that's doing that now all over the country. And it's changed a lot, from the standpoint that things are, the game's changed. Now it's evolved a little bit more to a passing game, probably a lot more, than what it was. I mean, it used to be, obviously run the football, play defense. I mean, that was kind of the mentality, the winning formula to win big. The teams are doing that now, don't get me wrong, but I think the game's changed a little bit because of the rule changes. They've changed a lot of the rules to try to help the offense a little bit and give them some advantages. And they're taking it, they've taken advantage of it. They're scoring more points than they have. It's more exciting for the fans. They hope it's better for TV. That's the ultimate reason. And they're selling more tickets. So the game's changed that way a little bit. They're limited. Recruiting now is a nightmare. I mean, it's this early signing date and offering kids. I never really wanted to get on the table and offer a kid until I saw him playing, unless he was a blue chip kid, LaShawn McCoy, I wanted to see this kid in his senior year playing some football a little bit. So we would go in and recruit him and start recruiting them. But the offers really came in, going into their senior year. Now you see kids getting offered when they're in 9th and 10th grade. I mean, how can you can't. I don't care who. I mean, you can't evaluate a player then.
I totally agree with you, and in my business, I consult and guide them through the process, and I've had kids that I've coached. I had a baseball kid coach before he stepped on the field in high school. The kid goes down to Georgia, is pounding home runs. Guess what? Before he's ever played, he's verbally committed somewhere.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me about that, I never broke my word with a high school coach, or a kid when I was recruiting. If I told them that, hey, you got a scholarship, we want you, it's impossible to do it. I don't know how these coaches do it because they're offering so many guys, and now there's only so many numbers. And someone's going to have to get scratched. And everybody's trying to get the best players. And, boy, that was the one thing. I got a lot done in the state of Pennsylvania and in Ohio because when we went after those kids and we offered them, and I think they trusted us. And I think that's a real key. And nowadays, it's just too many offers out there, too many kids, and things change so much. So that's different. And, the limitation, I think, on training camp, what you can do with pads on, the physicality, and I'm all for whatever we got to do. I got all 5 grandsons who are going to be playing. So anything we can do to improve the safety of these kids, I'm on board.
Sure.
But, I mean, the only way you get better, it's still a game of blocking and tackling, and the only way you get better is you got to do it full speed.
Yep.
That's changed some, to some degree, I get it, but at the end of the day, if you really want to be good, you have to work at your skill, and the skill's with the pads.
I totally agree with you. Getting in one more thing, stuff that I talk to my teams about. It's when I was playing in the Red Sox organization, they talked about it. Every good organization will sit there and give you a word, and I say it's culture. Tell me about how Coach Wannstedt. Tell me about culture, Coach, and what was a philosophy of yours to get the culture that you were looking for.
Well, I think the number one thing, you want to get kids that the game's important to them, because there's going to be a lot that is going to be demanded from them. And I always thought that if a guy wouldn't go to class, or a guy, if a guy was going to cheat away from football or cut corners, I don't use the word cheat, cut corners away from football, that he eventually would cut corners on football. So yeah, I think the culture that I set and my assistant coaches and we set administration-wise, football-wise, I'm talking, was that, that we were going to be accountable. We were going to be accountable to each other, and we were going to take an awful lot of pride and know the history of the University of Pittsburgh and the guys that came before us and the guys that wore the gold and blue and blue and gold jerseys. And so I always, because these kids nowadays, I mean, I had Mike Ditka come in and talk to the team once, and I don't think half the guys knew who he was, you know? I mean, sure. And I would give him stories all the time about Tony Dorsett and some of these guys, and time moves on. These young kids, you know, so you need to, my point is you need to educate them. So I want them to have some, as the expression, skin in the game. I want them to be all in with what the history of our school was, and then what we were going to demand from them to be it. And you know, obviously winning national championships, I got a couple, you know, I was very fortunate there, a couple of national championships, Super Bowls. So I was able to wear the rings in there and show them the trophies and say, this is what it's going to take, you know, from an effort standpoint and a practice standpoint. And I think that was the foundation. That was the starting point to get them to really believe that they could be good and they could be champions. And, you know, we just never got a chance to really finish it off, but we were headed that way. And players. And I'll tell you what, I give Coach Narduzzi a shout out on this. You can get good players, but you need to develop these guys. And when you look at the Ohio States, Alabamas, and Pitt, it did a great job this year developing some of those talented players. And you have to, you know, you can get all the talent in the world, but you got to move their skill level to a higher level. And I think Pitt does a great job of that. I really do. And you see that happening at the best programs around the country, you know, and you look at the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the draft picks they got and the great players they got. Well, they come in as talent, but then they get developed. So I always thought that was. And then I ran a pro system on offense and defense. So when I recruited LaShawn McCoy, I said, you come here, this is what we're going to run. Here, let me put some Dallas Cowboy tape on and show you Emmitt Smith or Ricky Williams when I was at the Dolphins. These are the plays we're going to run, and this is what you're going to do, and it's going to give you a chance to go to the next level.
Absolutely. Getting into it a little more, I want to go into the recruiting thing and take you back to college. Everybody has a strategy, and I know that you've been, you know, when you were at Pitt, you know, your strategy might have been different than Oklahoma State and then Miami. I mean, you know, everything like that. Talk a little bit about what your strategy was for recruiting. How far, I think you touched on it before, but yeah, just like how far you would look out and a kid to keep them on the radar. I know you had put on there when you like to offer and everything, but you know what your radar was and a little bit about your strategy. I mean, you could take it from Pitt, like, yeah, I know your base was a WPL. Then where did you head and what did you look for?
Well, I always thought that I would get a good evaluation from the guys. When I went to a kid's school, and I remember my first year at Pitt, in fact, I think they put an end to it after that. I was on the road 21 straight days in May. I hit every school in Western Pennsylvania, and really not Western, the whole state of Pennsylvania. And then we put an emphasis. We were still in Florida some, but we kind of curved it a little bit. And I wanted an emphasis. It was the same philosophy that we used at the University of Miami. You know, I wanted to be able to drive and get my coaches to drive and get the parents and high school coaches being involved, you know, because every kid's going to have a problem in college. I don't care who you are. And it might be girlfriend, it might be school, it might be football, it might be off the field. Everyone's going to have a problem. So we put a real emphasis in like a 6-hour radius. You know, we got into Jersey and Ohio and down into DC, and and a little bit in Florida. I mean, we were still getting kids out of Florida. And, but you know, I always thought when I was recruiting a kid that I wanted to find out who was the influence in this young man's life. You know, was it the coach? Was it an uncle? Was it the mom? Was it the grandmother? I mean, it didn't make any difference who. And that was the first thing that I would want to know. And then you could kind of get a feel for what type of individual he was. And it's the same thing. If the kid was not going to class, and everybody's got different levels of you know, school aptitude stuff. But to me, there was no difference in if a guy was going to class and he was trying to make the effort. And that's what I looked at as much as anything, because if a kid was given an effort, I didn't care if he was a C student all the way through. I said, he'll come in here and give an effort and he'll get a college degree. He'll stay in school. So I always looked at it a little bit more. I wasn't worried about the football talent. I think I watched 8 plays at Dion Lewis and turned the projector off. You know, I said, how tall is this kid? And Jeff Hathley was recruiting him. He said, he's not very tall. I said, bring him down, have him come down. And if he's a good kid, I said, I'm going to offer him a scholarship. I've seen enough. He said, you just saw 8 plays. I said, I saw enough. And so then Jeff turns and starts walking out, and he turns to me. He says, Coach, I think he's only 5'5". I says, that's okay. Have him come down. So I was all about recruiting playmakers, you know, and I got this philosophy from Jimmy Johnson, who used to sit there at Miami and say, let's recruit those players that can do things that we don't have to coach. If you got to coach a young man to do everything exactly correctly, you're going to be good, but you're not going to be great. I mean, you're not going to get one of these, you know.
I hear you.
So that's the difference that we always looked at.
That is straight awesome. Just want to end this up, Coach, and I really think that, you know, it's enjoyable, and some great information. I just want to know 3 people. I mean, we talked at the beginning about, you know, the mentors, the people that help you, that shape you, and everything like that. Give me 3 people that Dave Wannstedt learned and holds dear as far as mentoring you into the person and man you are.
Well, I would say that, you know, obviously Jimmy Johnson from a football standpoint, you know, he would be number 1. And now we're having a little mini Hall of Fame party down in his house in the Keys in a couple of weeks. I won't tell you where or when, but Troy Aikman's coming in, Norv Turner, Tony Wise, Kevin O'Neill, who's a Pitt guy. He was our trainer, Butch Davis. So we're going to have a little get together down there someplace. So Jimmy and I still talk all the time. And so Jimmy was a big influence on me. I got to say Coach Majors, you know, because he really kind of got me started in this profession and gave me an opportunity there. And then thirdly, the chaplain at the University of Miami. I mean, he you know, he got me making a stronger commitment to my faith and my family, and that's made a huge difference in my life. So those 3 guys come to mind. Well,
that is awesome. Coach, I appreciate it so much.
Can you see my little wall here? This is like one of my rooms. This is I got some of the stuff up here. How about this? I'm just going to show you. I hope I don't screw this up. I got helmets here from you recognize that purple one there? Where am I at? Right here. You recognize that purple one on the end?
That's Baldwin.
That's Baldwin. Then Green Bay, where I played the Packers, Oklahoma State, USC. And we got all the pro teams, Miami, Dallas, all that stuff. But then I got plenty of Pitt stuff up here. I'm just giving a little tour here, you know. I got some, now you know what? This is about as meaningful to me as anything I got. This is the Letterman of Distinction Award that Pitt gives out.
Yep.
And that has nothing to do with, you know, winning Super Bowls and national championships. That's all about just, they feel like you did something off the field. So here's the last play. You recognize this game? This is the West Virginia game. I'm not holding it. There we go. The last play.
Lord, you're gonna open up a can with that. You know what?
I knew you would. This is when I got the Bears job here. This is when we won playoff games. Went to the White House down here a couple times with Coach Shula right here. Pat Riley right here. He was always in my box down at the Dolphins. I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm giving our viewers a little tour here, But it's all great stuff and all fun stuff, fun stuff.
You know something, Coach? And if you just give me a minute, my wife told me a story today, and she just walked in from work, and it was about on Twitter a young girl, young man that had a Coach Wannstedt best coach ever shirt on, and you saw him on Twitter with that, and his name was Luca Pugliano, and he sent you the shirt, and you signed it and sent him some stuff back.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Coach Wannstedt, as you know, Tom, but don't expect much. It's got to be real special for me to respond to anything, because I don't, I'm not, but I use it. I follow people and keep up to speed with everything. I'm going to give you a quick baseball story. You know who my next door neighbor was at when I was coaching the Bears for 6 years? And to this day, in fact, we were just texting about a month ago, Joe Girardi.
Oh boy, you're bringing up those Yankees, but I love Joe Girardi. I do. We could get in. I know we could start telling all kind of stories, but I can remember, and when I was coaching, I was a defensive coordinator at Shady Side Academy, and you were coaching, and I 2 years in a row we were sitting there, after some meetings and in there talking. I was really picking your head about the Hurricane 4-3 defense and everything like that. So had some great talks, and if there's one thing that I can say, Coach, you take the time to sit there and help. And I think that it's that Pittsburgh trait, man. We have such good coaches around here that, will step up and do everything. And I'm just honored that you would come on and share some of the football stuff, some of the recruiting stuff, some of how the game was, and just take us around and show you some of your memorabilia and everything.
Wow, it was fun. It was definitely fun, and I'm a big Pitt fan. I'm a fan of Coach Narduzzi's and what Heather's doing at the AD, and obviously the administration with the Chancellor Gallagher. I think that they finally got people in there that are really all committed and pulling the train one direction for Pitt to be successful. So I'm happy for all of them and the kids. And I get back to Pittsburgh once in a while. I still got my mother back there. We'll get back in the summer sometime. So you can take the kid out of Pittsburgh, but you can't take the Pittsburgh out of the kid, right?
Absolutely. I tell you, there's been a few times that I haven't lived in Pittsburgh, and I can remember when you come back, and you know the old scene when you come through the tunnel, but I was actually coming in the Parkway East from out there. When you see the city, man, it brings it all back to you. Pittsburgh's always going to be home no matter where I am.
A couple of my buddies back there on Ash Wednesday sent me a picture of a fish sandwich. I can't tell you where it's from, or I'll be promoting the restaurant. They sent me pictures of a Pittsburgh fish sandwich. I live in Florida now, and I cannot get that sandwich down here, I promise.
Well, Coach, I'll tell you what, thank you. You enjoy going down and meeting with everybody. And if ever I can do anything, get a hold of me when I'm sure that you can help with the recruiting. But anything that I can do to help you, sir, you let me know.
All right, Tommy. Enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. What a good time. What a good time.